Oh, you'll have to excuse me. I'm trying to figure out how to pronounce Mike's last name. Mike Beneduce? Mike Beneduki? Mike Beneducky.
Seth, that is my husband you're talking about. It's Mike Beneduce.
Thanks, Corey. Mike Beneduce. Now I have to figure out how to spell it. A great man once said that alcohol is the cause of and solution to all of life's problems. I know that it is the favorite drink of old English dudes and sassy women that need a vacation and can't take this crap anymore. But I am not really much of a wine drinker. So I decided to find someone that could give us some information not only about wine, but wine making. And finally I found him. I can't pronounce his name, so I'll allow him to introduce himself.
All right, I'm Mike Beneduce. I'm the winemaker at Beneduce Vineyards. I've been making wine since I was 3 years old and professionally since I was 21, so about 10 years now.
I know that a lot of bartenders don't drink beer from their own barrels, and I was wondering if this was true for winemakers. Do they not drink their own wine?
Never get high on your own supply. Yeah, that's rule number one. Actually, there's some truth to that. So I'm breaking that right now because I am drinking my own wine. But typically, I don't drink my own wine at home because you get what's called house palate. So if you taste your own wines so much, you start to sort of lose a reference for how they taste in the world of wines and in comparison to other wines. So we taste our own wines a lot in the winery when we're making them, but not so much when we're home drinking because it's nice to have other wines from around the world give you a reference.
Confirmed.
A story that I'm hoping is just an urban legend is that winemakers will sometimes fall into their own barrels and vats and drown. Sounds like an happy death to me, but does this really happen?
Wine barrels, not really, because they're sealed up all the way, but wine vats, definitely. Someone usually dies every year around the world making wine because a lot of times the vats are open top, so they're fermenting openly, and they produce CO2 when they're fermenting, and CO2, if you breathe in CO2, can make you kind of like woozy. So a lot of times when people are looking into a tank, they'll lean over, smell the CO2, and then actually pass out, and they can die in the wine vat, for sure. That's true.
Confirmed.
I've always heard that you shouldn't bother buying expensive wine, as inexpensive wine can be just as good, or sometimes even better. Would you say this was true?
I agree with both of those, but I think there's definitely a sort of threshold that you hit. So any wine, say below $10 or $15 a bottle, has probably never been touched by human hands. It's picked with mechanically picked, mechanically made in huge tanks, very sort of recipe winemaking. So you're going to get like a consistent product, but it's not necessarily going to be a handcrafted product or one that sort of is unique to that place. And so as you sort of get into those more unique places and more unique farms where the wine is coming from, sometimes the cost can go up because of supply and demand, and also the cost of actually farming things by hand makes the wine more expensive. So I think there's definitely some great value bottles under $20, say, if you're looking for that. But there's also some really interesting wines that are more expensive to make and obviously more expensive when they hit the shelf. So I'd say both.
Confirmed.
There's this theory that's been spread a lot in the media recently that wine tasters are stuck-up snobs and that they don't have a special palate that makes them taste wine any better than any other person. Would you say that this was true? Is it all bullcrap?
It's not bullcrap, that's for sure. I think that there's a sort of sentiment that people can't learn to taste wine, which I don't agree with. I think it's like anything. The more you practice it, the more you learn it. It's just a skill that can be learned. I think it's just like tasting food, right? If you can taste the difference between a spicy chicken wing and a not spicy chicken wing, you can learn the difference between a high alcohol wine and a low alcohol wine. And so you just have to sort of train your palate, and that just comes with repetition and tasting with other people that know about wines, and just being open to kind of learning things. So I think that nobody starts with a sort of like brilliant super palate. That comes with experience and with training and with time.
Busted!
A lot of sassy old women claim that they should drink wine as it's good for the heart. And I was wondering, as an expert with wine, if you believe this is true.
That one is very true. So red wine especially has something called resveratrol, which is an antioxidant that's found in the grape skins. It's also found in things like blueberry and pomegranates, and so these sort of darker compounds. And resveratrol, or antioxidants, have found to be very good for your heart. And so there was this whole thing called the French paradox, where they were trying to figure out why French people eat really fatty meats and fatty cheese all the time, but they were living much longer than American people. And one of the things they found was that they drank red wine with almost every meal. So that was sort of counteracting that fatty food that they had. So if you want to eat a hamburger, have a glass of red wine with it, and it'll balance itself out.
Confirmed.
So, when is the best time to drink wine? A lot of people think that you can age it, and it will taste better. But I was wondering if you think it's better to just get it off the shelf and drink it.
That's a really good question. I think most wine that you drink today is meant to be drunk within a couple of years of when you buy it. So it used to be that wines were made that you had to, once you bought them, you had to lay them down for, say, 10 or 20 years to drink. Now the winemaking practices have changed to kind of make wine a little bit more accessible when they're younger. And also, like, drinking old wine is a subjective thing. Not everybody likes old, mature wine. It changes the flavors and the aroma compounds. So you have to kind of really like the subtlety of older, mature wines to appreciate aged wines. But I'd say there are certainly wines that get better with age and that improve with age. But I think for most people and most wines that we're drinking today, they're pretty much ready when they hit the market.
Busted!
And now, as we always do at the end, I want you to go ahead and tell us anything you want about your profession. A free-for-all.
Yeah, I would just encourage people to try different wines. I think a lot of times people get into a rut where they think they only like Cabernet or Chardonnay, and they just sort of keep ordering the same thing. But there's a whole world of wine out there, different varieties and different regions that are growing them, and there's a lot of sort of new ways of making wine that are very interesting. So I would just say, for people to be explorative and try new things and try different bottles, and drink what you like. Don't feel like you have to drink something because somebody else told you it was good. It's about finding wine that you like and sort of exploring everything that's out there. So that's the fun part about it for me.
See ya.
Goodbye. Have a great night.
And now, since this is a wine episode, I'm going to leave off in the most sophisticated manner possible. Enjoy Les Seth Theatre.
This is one that I would like to call the Hatchling.
I am like eagle. I soar through sky. Caw-caw! Caw-caw! Wind on my face. Sun shining bright. Forest below me. And now I leave my eagle spirit. I become like salmon swimming through water. I lay my eggs for Mother Earth. Take them. Give life to planet. Now I become the universe. I am one with it. Words, go away. Strife, go away. I am free of you. I'm going. I'm sinking down. I'm entering my most safest place. I am in Mother's womb. I lay here. Now, I see the light. I climb towards it. I am born into the world again. And see.